Yeah. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Winchester City Council Planning Development Control Committee. It is Thursday, September the 24th at 9:30. Before we start, I would just ask our Senior Democratic Services Officer to do a roll call of the members, councillors present today. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I'll start with the members who are present today at the meeting. First of all, Councillor Clear.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Evans as Chair.
I'm here.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Laming.
Present.
Councillor McLean.
Present.
We have apologies from Councillor Reid. Councillor Raffel.
Present.
Councillor Rutter sends her apologies as well. Councillor Bentote.
Yes, present, deputising for Councillor Rutter.
Thank you. And also as Deputy Member, Councillor Pearson.
Present, deputising for Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. That's the members' roll call completed.
Thank you. So we're a full committee of councillors.
That is correct.
Would you like to introduce the officers present today?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will continue with the officers. In the St Giles room with me is Julie Pinnock, the Service Lead for Built Environment. And for the presenting officers today, we have Liz Marsden, the Planning Case Officer for item 7, Winchester Cathedral. Sean Quigley, Planning Case Officer for items 8, Ladwell House, and also item 9, Wheatlands. And then this afternoon we have Nicola Clayton for item 11, Lexington Ridge. And again, Liz Marsden, Planning Case Officer for item 12, The Haven. Also present today within the meeting is Fiona Sutherland, the Public Law Manager. And stated, I'm David Shaw from Democratic Services, and I'm in the St Giles room. And we're supported today in the Mill room by Nancy Graham, also from Democratic Services. Thank you, Chair. They're the officers present.
Thank you, Dave. And so just a few housekeeping issues before we start the agenda. Members, I'm sure we all know now that if you could keep your microphones and cameras off unless you're speaking. And if you're referring to our report, please could you mention the page and the paragraph, the page number and the paragraph. And if you have any IT problems, please could you let officers know, because it might affect your right to vote. Members of the public and to those who are listening, good morning. Thank you for logging in today. Same for you. When you are not speaking, could you please keep your microphone on mute and turn your videos off? Those members of the public who are speaking, when it's your turn, you will see a clock in front of you and you will have 3 minutes to give your presentation. If you're still going at the end of 3 minutes, I shall have to ask you to finish your sentence, I'm afraid. But most people manage to finish within their 3 minutes. And then after that, it is possible that members of the committee would like to ask you questions, if you could be prepared for that. And then once you've finished, you're very welcome to stay and listen to that item and, in fact, the end of the meeting if you wish. But could you then once again turn off your mic and video? Could I also advise everybody that this meeting is being audio recorded and live streamed from the council's website, and a video recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the council's YouTube channel after the meeting, where it can be found next to the meeting's details, where the recording will remain thereafter. So I will now move on to the agenda. I think we have indicated we have 2 deputy members today, and the apologies, but perhaps we'll just do that again, Dave. Apologies and deputy items. Item 1.
Yes, thank you, Chair. To confirm that we have apologies from Councillor Reid and we have Councillor Pearson as Deputy Member, and also apologies from Councillor Rutter, the Vice Chair, and we have Councillor Bentout as Deputy Member.
Thank you, and welcome Councillors Pearson and Bentout. The second item is disclosures of interest, and if you could just indicate on chat that you would like to declare an interest. Oh no, actually before I do that, I need a Vice Chair because Councillor Rutter is not here today. So could I have a nomination for a Vice Chair, please?
Councillor Clear.
Councillor Clear, is that agreed?
Thank you,
Yes.
Chair. If everybody agrees, thank you.
Thank you then. So the Vice Chair, Councillor Clear, will pick up those who want to speak on chat, and every now and then I will ask her. So we're on disclosures of interest. Councillor Pearson, I know you've got a disclosure of interest.
Yes, please, Chairman. As I'm a friend of the Cathedral and a sidesman there, I must declare a personal interest in item number 1. I've not discussed this application. I have no financial gain, so it's not a prejudicial interest, simply a personal one.
Thank you. And I too am a friend of Winchester Cathedral, but I have had nothing to do with the first application. So again, a personal but not prejudicial interest. Any other declarations of interest? Is there anything else, Vice Chair, on chat? It doesn't sound like there is. No. So we will move on then to item 3 on the agenda, membership of subcommittee.
Chair, could I ask, looking at chart, does Councillor Laming have a declaration you would like to make?
It was only that I've been advised that I don't need to, but I am the ward councillor for Motor Farm and Oliver's Battery, and that is an application item 8 comes in. Yeah.
Thank you for confirming.
So item 3 on the agenda, membership subcommittees. I don't think we have any subcommittees.
No, nothing to report on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item 4, which are the minutes of the last meeting. If you would, was held on the 20th of August. If you would just like to unmute your microphones and agree or disagree if you don't find them an accurate record.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
So that sounds that those are agreed. So those are agreed. Thank you. And then item 5 on the agenda is to accept the update sheet. So as an addendum to the reports. So again, could you unmute and indicate your agreement to accept the update sheet?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. So we move on then to the business items of the day. Dave, do we have to wait for public speakers, or are they now?
Chair, I can now confirm that both public speakers have joined the meeting.
And we've also got Councillor Ferguson. She's here too, is she?
I'm just looking, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, I can confirm that she is in the meeting as well. Thank you.
Great. So agenda item 7, 20/01294/FUL. This is to cite 112 chalets, 2 security chalets and a nativity chalet within the grounds of Winchester Cathedral. The chalets to be located in the inner close, outer close, paddock area around the Old Minster and War Memorial to form the annual Christmas market, to allow for broader distancing measures, a temporary walkway to be provided through the paddock and around the east end of the cathedral for visitor safety, Hours of operation of the market 10 in the morning until 2000, from Thursday the 19th of November through to Tuesday the 22nd of December, and the application is made by representatives of the Winchester Cathedral. The case officer is Liz Marsden. So if we could hear your presentation, Liz, that would be great.
Please bear with me while I get the presentation.
For those listening to the audio recording, we are just getting the visual presentation up on screen, so we'll just take a few moments to do that.
Chair, please bear with me.
Yeah, these things take time.
That's not it.
Sorry about the delay, everybody. We do occasionally have odd glitches with the technology, which is presumably the problem at the moment. But as soon as we get the presentation loaded up, then we will start.
Chair, could I ask if members could see the presentation now?
Sorry, what were you asking, Dave?
I'm asking if members can see the presentation now.
No.
No.
Okay,
No.
that's fine. Thank you.
Dave, it's Councillor McLean here. We have had, of course, paper copies of this, haven't we?
Yes, it'd be very nice.
Should we refer, Chair, to the paper copies and work our way through those?
No, Dave.
Still not.
We can just see Liz on the screen still. Do we need to change the camera?
Yes, just to clarify Councillor McLean's comment, very helpful, that we do at the end of our report have the presentation, which includes pictures of the cathedral, that's been parts of the cathedral being used, and the layout of the one-way system. I suppose, Liz, you could refer to that if you don't manage to get this up on screen.
Again, Chair, sorry to butt in, but we've all read the papers, we've all seen the photographs, so it is just a question of talking us through them, I think.
Fiona?
Chair, can I just advise that you spend a few minutes trying to get this sorted out
Yeah.
at the moment, because obviously we've got to deal with the rest of the meeting as well, and I think the public may want to see the presentation as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good, I see the presentation is coming up now.
Okay, are we on? Yeah. The application is specified is to extend the area that the market is going to be occupying around the cathedral for this year only, in order to address some of the concerns that have raised about COVID. Just an aerial view of the cathedral premises. Generally speaking, the market is contained to the front of the cathedral and in the inner close, together with this garden area here. This year they are proposing to extend along the paths and around the back of the cathedral, or the front, depending which way you look at it, and then come round and to create a one-way system. I'll show you more detail. There you go, that's my lots of arrows. So it creates a one-way system to ensure that there is less possibility of people congregating in one area. More detail, these are the positions of the chalets laid out in the close. This area is normally occupied by an ice rink, which won't be taking place this year. That's in the inner close. In the outer close, you have chalets along the path going up to the museum and this path here, and then a new temporary pathway to be created along the side of the cathedral, along there. The chalets extend to approximately halfway up the transept, but the path continues along, round and down past the end of the cathedral in the corner of Paternoster House and round back to this location here. Views of the cathedral, if anyone hasn't seen it. This is coming up from Water Close to the east. You can just see Paternoster House here, and that's the end of the cathedral. Going up towards the sort of tunnel that you get through into the inner close. Again, this is the existing path that comes round the end of the cathedral and the wall separating it from Paternoster House there. The path will come out, the temporary footway will come out in this location and head into the tunnel. Inner close, where the cathedral is traditionally situated, with stalls all around in this location, and then through back up to the front of the cathedral there, and then along paths in the outer close. These are the nearest properties abutting the road and near the museum here. The paddock area, this is entirely new, which is where the temporary footpath will be created along this side of the cathedral and heading down towards Paternoster House, which is here, not visible in this photo. But in this photo you can see Paternoster House there, and then as you get closer, the path for public will go round this side of the wall and through back round the end of the cathedral, and you can see the properties there with the balconies that have been referred to. This is actually the accesses to the flats, I believe. And this is Paternoster House and its proximity to the cathedral when viewed from Colebrook Street. The application is recommended for approval. The Christmas market provides a significant contribution to the vitality, and it's considered that the measures that are in place for this year only, and as a response to the pandemic, are suitable, and the actual impact in terms of noise and disturbance from the proposal will not have a significant impact on local residents or the character and appearance of the area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've now come to public speaking, but before we do so, there was dreadful background noise when, Liz, you were giving your presentation. I don't know if anyone in the St Giles room could rectify that for future presentations, but it was actually difficult to hear above it. But we did hear. Right, so we have the first public speaker is Stephen Partridge, who is an objector. Mr. Partridge, are you here today?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Can hear you, can't see you as yet, which it would be nice to see you.
Sorry, I've got a problem with my phone doing that.
Oh, I see. Okay, so.
All right. Okay,
yeah.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Just very quickly, just a few points. I noticed that strangely, 2 days before this meeting, there's an email on the council's website about the walkway being covered, but I don't really know anything about that. But generally, just to reiterate my objection, I'm going to have 10,000 people a day, according to the cathedral's own figures, passing my property from my balcony, both balconies actually. And I see the covered proposal won't cover past the gate, which means I'll still have 10,000 people going past my rear balcony. Generally, I just can't see how this was even been thought of. If it was anybody apart from the cathedral, I just don't think it would be considered. That's basically it. But there's like 40 or 50 Christmas markets have been cancelled this year because of the virus, purely because of the virus, not because of local objections. So I'm just generally quite baffled by the whole thing. And we generally, living here, we don't think this would be a one-off. I think the cathedral invested a lot of money into these alterations. I don't think that would be a one-off. But basically, it's more to do with the lack of privacy than the cathedral itself. That's basically what I wanted to say, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't take off, because it could be that the committee would like to ask you questions.
Okay.
Vice Chair, are there any indications of anyone wanting to ask Mr. Partridge a question?
No, I don't appear to have any members up for a question at the present time, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Partridge, could I just check that you live in Paternoster House? Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't feel like there are any questions for you. So thank you very much for coming along. Please do stay and listen to the rest of the application. But if you could just turn your microphone, and you haven't got your video on. So yeah, thank you. So we move on then to the next speaker, who's Councillor Paula Ferguson, who's the Cabinet Member for the Local Economy. Good morning, Councillor Ferguson. And when you're ready, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to address the Planning Committee today. As the Cabinet Member for the Local Economy, I wanted to speak today in support of the Cathedral's planning application to change the layout for the Christmas market this year. While I recognise there are ongoing concerns in respect of the continued spread of the coronavirus, and there will be a need to closely monitor infection rates over the coming weeks, together with any additional changes in government restrictions, I found it was important to speak today to impress how important the Christmas market is for the local economy. This year it will be of particular importance, especially for our many retail and hospitality businesses who are seeking cover after temporary closure and who are continuing to have to adjust to additional restrictions placed upon them. Analysis undertaken by the local economy team shows that the Christmas market has a positive economic impact on the city. During the Christmas market, there is a significant increase in the number of people coming into the city, and footfall levels in the high street increased by almost 25% on normal. And those people who come into the city spend a longer amount of time there, often staying for several hours, and as a result, they spend more. The winter months are not a naturally busy time on any high street. Our market research shows that the main reason why almost 3/4 of people visit Winchester during this period is to visit the Christmas market. Many come from outside the local area, which is an important factor in driving up the additional footfall. Additional footfall that will be vital to our local businesses this year as they seek to rebuild and for some possibly make it through the winter months as the pandemic continues to have a negative impact on business outlook. It's worth noting that visitors to the Christmas market actually spend more in the high street than they do in the Christmas market. The expansion of the Christmas market into the outer close this year will ensure that there is enough distance between the chalets to allow for social distancing, and it's to be welcomed for its public safety, because we believe it will also create a stronger link between the Christmas market and the high street, and is likely to drive even more spending in the city. Again, we cannot underestimate how important this will be to our high street at a time when high streets up and down the country are struggling. The Winchester Christmas Market is considered to be one of the best Christmas markets in Europe, and last year was voted the best Christmas market in the UK. It is very much part of what Winchester has to offer, and is likely to be an important factor when, despite the ongoing pandemic, there is still strong interest in opening new retail and hospitality businesses in our city, when sadly others are having to close. At a time when the unemployment rate across the district is rising, it's currently 3 times higher than it was at this time last year. It's also important to note the Christmas market provides seasonal employment opportunities for between 50 and 100 local people, and it particularly provides employment opportunities for young people who are often employed by the chalet holders. The City Council are working closely with the Cathedral to ensure the organisers have considered all of the additional measures that must be put in place to make the Christmas market COVID secure. And it must be remembered that the Cathedral must produce a comprehensive event management plan. This will be considered by the Safety Advisory Group, which includes officers from the City Council, the County Council, Public Health and the police. That committee will look very closely at public health issues, and as part of the event management plan, the Cathedral must provide a specific plan, Chair, to show how they will make the market COVID secure and how it will comply with the current government COVID-related restrictions and guidance. Assuming the Safety Advisory Committee can be satisfied and infection rates can be kept under control, we remain hopeful that the Christmas market will be able to go ahead. Given its positive impact on the local economy and just how important it will be for local businesses this year, I hope the Planning Committee will feel it appropriate to approve this planning application. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. Time to perfection. Do any members want to ask Councillor Ferguson, in her role as the Cabinet Member for Local Economy, any questions?
Yes, Chair. Councillor McLean, please.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair, very much. Councillor Ferguson, a very impassioned presentation on the economy, which is fantastic, and we all know that. I don't believe, having had discussions on this, is a planning issue, but COVID is with us. The government is changing the rules because it's having to save, basically to save people's lives. And I guess my concern is that if the government has to change the rules again to protect lives, the Cathedral will have gone quite a long way down its preparations and ploughed a lot of money into this. On your conversations with the Cathedral, have they thought through the fact that they may have to cancel fairly close to the event actually kicking off? Because already sports venues have been closed down, where you've got maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people. I think that part of the presentation from the gentleman from Paternoster House was 10,000 people a day. Any comments?
If I may, Councillor McLean, Councillor Ferguson, we do have as the next speaker Mr. Philip Holroyd-Smith, who is the applicant. So I don't know whether Councillor Ferguson, you think that question might be more appropriately put to him?
I would certainly think it would be most appropriately put to him, but I have to say that in our conversations with the Cathedral, we have talked about the very stark likelihood that the market may have to be closed because nobody can predict what will happen with the virus. That very much is part of that comprehensive event management plan and why it must have a specific plan to deal with concerns around COVID-19. But it is a concern both, I'm sure, for the Cathedral and for us, which is why they are working so hard to make the market as COVID secure as possible. But those issues will be considered by that safety advisory group, the public health issues.
Thank you, because there's a lot of our residents that will go to this and hopefully won't put themselves at risk.
Absolutely, we don't want people putting themselves at risk, but we do know how important it is for the economy. I can't say that enough. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have a quick look at chat, but there were lots of long sentences on there, so I haven't got time to read them. Vice Chair, any more questions for Councillor Ferguson?
No more questions indicated. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Members, if you could not put comments on chats, because it just sort of slows the process up. You're very welcome to make them, but please make them publicly. So thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson, and of course you're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the application. And the final public speaker is the applicant, Mr. Philip Holroyd-Smith. Good morning, Mr. Holroyd-Smith. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you for inviting me along to speak this morning.
So when you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. So firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Ferguson for her support this morning as well, and to reiterate that obviously we are in very uncertain times at the moment and challenging times, and our application to change the market layout and plans is as a direct response to the COVID pandemic at the moment and our desire to make it as safe and manageable for our visitors, residents, staff and traders alike. And we put that safety at the forefront of what we're doing. And we have created a plan with lots of COVID constraints and restrictions and safety measures in place, and we're working closely with the Safety Advisory Group, and we are very much working hand in hand with them. We're meeting with them in the coming days to review our COVID plans, but there is considerable time and investment to facilitate that. I would like to just comment on one point that the gentleman who objected made about a covered walkway. There is no intention to have a covered walkway, but there is an intention to put screening up at the back of the walkway to provide an element of protection for a visit from a sightline perspective for him or for the residents of Paternoster House, to reduce that down. So we have given that some consideration as we do and try and work with residents across the board. I would also reiterate that we're very aware of the significance of the market financial impact to the city and to the wider community, and to shops, restaurants, bars, bed and breakfast, hotels, parking and the like, and the importance of Christmas generally within the community. And it is very much our desire to continue to deliver that, but absolutely the safety is paramount in what we are looking to do, and we continue to work very closely with relevant bodies and will do so as we move forward and get closer towards the Christmas market. I think that's all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you very much, but there could be some questions for you.
I'm sure there will be.
I've got one. Mr. Partridge, in his objections, was saying that you had indicated there would be 10,000 people per day, coming to the market? Obviously, they wouldn't all come in one go, but is that the figure of attendance that you're expecting?
Potentially. We are looking at ticketing the event now as a mechanism to control numbers, and our calculations will allow up to 1,100 people an hour into the market on a staggered basis. So by ticketing the event, it will restrict it, but on a 9-hour event, the potential for 10,000 people across the day, evenly spread, if we were operating at absolute maximum capacity, does exist. But I think the likelihood of that is low.
Thank you. And if I could just clarify, this is a permission, a temporary permission, just for now, situation.
Yes, absolutely. This is a 1-year planning application to cover the extension of the market into the other areas, outer reaches of the outer close and the area known as the paddock, and it is a 1-year application only.
And sorry, last question from me. That there are the same number of stalls, just in a much wider area.
Yes, so we have the application is for 112 chalets, which is the same number as we've had in previous years, but the chalets are spread out over a far wider area. So we have a minimum of a 2-meter gap between each chalet. The chalets are all set back off the main walkway so that visitors need to approach the chalet rather than being directly onto the walkway. And there are also no chalets opposite each other anywhere in the market. So there are places where the chalets back up to each other, but there are no chalets opposite each other, which historically we know has leads to some busier areas within the market.
Thank you. That's it from me. But I know that Councillor McLean asked our portfolio holder a question. Councillor McLean, did you want to ask the same question to Mr. Holroyd-Smith?
Yes, if I may. I heard, and I'm sure you did, everything that Councillor Ferguson said, and I totally agree that the economy of the city has to be protected. But I think we, or you, as the organisers, have a duty to protect the people that go to the event. Now, how are you going to enforce the things, i.e. the rules of 6? Are people going to be made to wear face masks? How are you going to ensure that people stay 2 meters apart? You know, I know it's not planning issues, but we're looking at people's lives here, and that's why I'm asking the question in the way I am. I wonder, could you give us some sort of short packaged version of your health and safety plan, please?
I will do my best. Yes, obviously we've given these areas some consideration, as you might expect. So by limiting the numbers in gives us a mechanism to control numbers through ticketing the event. Ground markings indicate the 2 meter areas that people need, separation areas. We will be requiring visitors to wear face masks if they are within, they're inspecting anything within a chalet, or then indeed they are within a chalet, or if they are entering toilets or any enclosed space. We will also be strongly recommending that face masks are worn at all times. We will have a communication piece going out on a new website that we're developing for the market as well, which will be a strong video content showing all of the safety measures in place. There are hand sanitizer points at all entry points around the market and at all gated areas. So by way of example, the entrance to the market at Bar Gate by the William Walker pub, also as people enter the paddock, as people enter the areas for the toilets, as people enter the tunnel that leads into the inner close, and if people are entering the market from the inner close end and Kingsgate Street, there's also hand sanitizers there. So everybody that comes into the market will be required to use the hand sanitizers. They'll be required to wear masks as they enter any chalets. They will also be required to use the track and trace facilities as well as they enter the market. So if they haven't booked a ticket online and coming up last minute, they'll be required to use the track and trace, as will all of our staff and traders as well. So we are looking at very closely at the COVID requirements, and again, we will continue to work very closely with the Safety Advisory Group. We've worked very much and very well with them over the last 5 or 6 years and continue to do so, and we will listen to their advice as necessary.
Okay, Councillor McLean.
Just let me, if I may, I'm just trying to, computer keeps freezing up. Can you hear me okay, Chair? Can you hear me okay? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can.
You can. And the second question, if I may, I know it's a buyer beware one, but you're obviously investing an awful lot of time and you're investing an awful lot of money in this. What happens if at some stage the government says, right, I'm sorry, you can't proceed? Is this a decision you're going to make early? Okay, the planning permission gets granted, but as a body, are you going to make the decision sooner rather than later to save yourselves an awful lot of money?
We have various staging points, if you like, at which we need to make decisions, and they're based on our financial commitment and the financial commitment of our traders. And so we have very specific timelines upon which we will make those decisions.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Vice Chair, any more questions for Mr. Holroyd-Smith?
Yeah. Councillor Pearson, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Holroyd-Smith, I was interested in your comment about the track and trace. Are you referring to the new NHS COVID-19 application, in which case will each chalet have its own QR thing by it, or will you just have one QR at the entrances to the whole market?
It is not our intention at the moment to have to require everybody who goes into an individual chalet to complete the track and trace as they move around the market, but it is our intention that as they enter specific zones of the market that they will need to complete the track and trace. I would also add, Councillor Pearson, that because of the requirement to ticket the event, we will also have those details stored ourselves, but the intention is to use the government track and trace system and zone it and zone the market.
Thank you, Mr. Holroyd-Smith. Very clear.
Vice Chair, is that it for questions?
Yes, no more questions. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Holroyd-Smith, thank you so much for coming along and explaining things. Some of those things weren't planning matters, but it was very good to hear the precautions that are being taken. Do stay, and as long as you want, if you could just now turn off your microphone and your video. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Liz, anything you wish to comment on from what you've heard in the public speaking? I think you're muted, Liz.
Better?
Yeah.
Not really, other than I'd just reiterate the point that I don't know how the suggestion of a covered walkway along through the paddock area came about, but on page 31 of the presentation there is a plan showing the line of the proposed fencing that they will use to help screen the walkway from Paternoster House.
Oh yes, I see. That's not a requirement in the conditions, is it? It's just been offered by the Cathedral should the committee require them to do it, or is
Indeed. No, it isn't. It isn't a requirement. It's not conditioned, but they are very willing to do that if it's considered to be necessary.
And what benefit would that give, the fence all the way along there?
It will just restrict. It will just restrict views from the path towards the Paternoster House. Obviously, from some distance, the top levels of it will still be visible, but from ground level, it's going to be distinctly reduced.
And on our maps, it seems to go on off the side of the map, so it seems to be quite a sizable fence. Does it carry on after the edge of our map?
I don't think so. I think it on page 31. I think the distance from there is such that screening isn't really necessary.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to questions from the committee, and as I've already indicated, it's questions on anything. You'd like to indicate that you want to ask a question to the Vice Chair on chat, but you don't have to say what the question is because that takes up time. So any questions from members?
No, I have none at present, Chair. Oh, here we are. Yes, David, Councillor McLean, please.
Councillor.
Oh, here we go.
No, I didn't say that.
Excuse me, Liz. DM18 allows for access to movement within the site in a safe and effective manner. Are we happy that this conforms to DM18 bullet point 2? Thank you.
Sorry, which page? DM18. Yes, I think this has been thought out to ensure that the most efficient circulation can take place around the market.
And if I may, Liz, as a final point on that one, does it also allow access for, shall we say, fire engines, ambulances and such like if needed? Is there enough space on the site, particularly the new bit along the, what would it be, if you like, the Colebrook side of the cathedral? Will it allow access for those vehicles? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there is already vehicle access from Colebrook Street via Paternoster Way, which would enable fire vehicles or emergency vehicles to get through. I mean, the market has been running in a much more constrained area for 15 years or so. So all of the normal measures are still in place for allowing emergency vehicle access. The areas that it has extended into are actually more accessible generally than the inner close. So I don't think that there would be an issue there.
Thank you.
And don't forget, members, the condition 7 on page 25 requires the comprehensive event management plan, and there's also a note in the informatives about it, informative 4, and we heard from Councillor Ferguson that she will be taking part in that. So those sort of COVID issues, safety issues of the event, COVID and other, because there are other safety issues, will be covered in the event management plan, which is mandatory.
I have one more question, Chair, from Councillor Pearson.
Oh, Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. A query about the conditions, if I may. Conditions 1 and 6 seem to be so similar that are virtually the same. Is there a reason for that? And the second query about that is about the lighting. Now, the floodlighting of the cathedral is already in place. Are we talking about additional lighting that may be necessary specifically for the chalets, or are we talking about floodlighting, as I say, that is already there? That's condition 4.
I think there is to be additional lighting to show the old Minster around there, and again for the chalets. I think this was asked for by our historic environment team. They want to ensure that there isn't any lighting added to historic fabric or anything else without it being run past them first in order to protect the setting and the listed buildings themselves.
Right. Okay. So it's really ground level lighting specifically for the old Minsters.
Yes, that's been suggested.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
No more questions, Chair.
Thank you. So we'll move into debate. Any contributions to debate?
None at present, Chair. Thank you.
Well, then I will perhaps say my piece. We've already heard the contribution that the Christmas market, the Cathedral's Christmas market, makes to the local economy. I was really interested to hear from Councillor Ferguson that more is spent in the city than there is spent in the market. And of course, this forms part of vital fundraising for the Cathedral as well. Times are very dire, aren't they? And the Christmas market, if we can work out all the safety issues, will really lighten the mood for the residents and people who come in to the city. We've heard that it's the same number of chalets but just spread over a much wider distance, and it's just 4 weeks and 5 days. I'm sorry if Paternoster House feels that they will be a bit besieged, but there are several entry points, I understand from the map. So, and it will be spread out, and it does seem to be very well organised. But I am very assured that the Safety Committee will look at all aspects in the event management plan, which is a requirement in the conditions. And it's just temporary, it's just for this year. If we do hope that situation doesn't get a lot worse, and the event, if given permission, has to be cancelled, but I certainly will wholeheartedly endorse this application.
Have Councillor McLean, Councillor McLean, Chair.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you very much, Chair. This application, I see in everything that's been said, and it is all about the economy. I totally understand that. But I just have a real worry. When you just sit down and do a few sums, you say there is a possibility of 10,000 people per day going through the site, multiplied by, I think it was said 4 weeks. You multiply those, you do the sums on that, and there's absolutely terrifying opportunity for infection with coronavirus. I think I would have to say, I think I would want to see in full the safety concerns addressed by the committee before I voted on it. I think for that reason alone, I haven't seen that, which is a major part of the running of the application. And for that reason, I'm going to have to abstain, because I cannot put my name to something where so many people are going to be at risk. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pinnock, could you just tell us how far our brief as a planning committee goes here, or the issues? Yeah, there's some funny noises then. Yes, could you just tell us whether safety concerns are our concern on the planning committee, or will they be covered in the event management plan, which presumably would have the right, if they weren't satisfied, to say no, it can't go ahead? And you're muted, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, what I would say to you is, yes, of course, the event management plan will handle those details, but equally the event will be licensed separately. And as you've said, the safety event management group will look at that. I think Liz probably knows the details better than I do in terms of the role that environmental health and others will play in that. And if I could invite Liz to just go through that, because she's talked to our environmental health colleagues, so she's got the detail.
Yes, Chair. The planning application, I mean, ironically, they could actually carry on with the market in its original location without needing planning consent. So the application is for the extension to the market, which has been designed in order specifically to minimise any risk from COVID. Whether planning is permitted or not, there is further stages through the safety advisory group and the meeting next week. I think there is one meeting next week anyway, and the level of other bodies that are also involved including the police, fire service and public health, which will discuss the COVID-19 risk assessments and the event management plan. So, you know, if they decide at that stage, and in the light of any further government guidance or issues, and as Mr. Holroyd-Smith said, they have stages at which to go, but unless this stage is overcome, then this isn't the be all and end all, is what I'm saying, particularly with regard to the COVID safety.
And I suppose then following up on that, the point really is that because we're a planning committee, we can be satisfied that others will deal with those matters, and we therefore shouldn't look to duplicate those other regimes that will manage those factors. So we should just stick to planning matters and make a planning judgment. Thank you, Chair.
If I may, Chair, just as a right to reply on that, all I've heard from Councillor Ferguson and Philip Holroyd-Smith is about the economy, which I utterly understand, but we're not, as a planning committee, we're also not dealing with the economy. That's not what we're here to do. So to say we can't talk about COVID properly, but we can talk about the economy, they're both off-piste. So how do we add the economy in on planning issues?
Chairman, I'd say that our planning policies do look to make sure that our town centres are vital and that they ensure we deal with land use matters, don't we? So it's a land use matter that the vitality of town centres is maintained. As Liz said, this event could occur anyway. This is an adjustment to the event. It's a planning matter, but COVID and other matters will be dealt with by those other groups. And, you know, if this event can't go ahead because of other matters, that wouldn't be a planning matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very clear. Vice Chair, any further contributions to debate?
No, I have no more contributions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, then we will move to the vote. This application has been recommended for approval, permission. So if you are in favour of voting for, if you could just say for, and Dave, and against or abstain, and Dave Shaw will call the roll call of members to give their vote. Dave, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We'll start with Councillor Clear.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
For.
Councillor Laming.
For.
Councillor McLean.
I will abstain.
Councillor Raphael.
For.
Councillor Bentout.
For.
And Councillor Pearson.
For.
That's all members in favour apart from one abstention, Chair.
Thank you very much. And so that application is approved. And we will move on now to the next item. Members, I'm in your hands here. We had thought that perhaps this application would go on until 11 o'clock, but it's only 10:28, and it seems too early to take a break. Would you agree?
Agree.
Yeah, so we'll go
Agreed,
on.
Chair.
We'll go on then to item 8.
Chair, we would need to get the public into the meeting though to join.
Are we too early for that?
I think we gave them a time of 11:15 to join, so we're 15 minutes ahead of ourselves at the moment, so we'll have to give them a call to join.
Let's take a very short break while we wait for members of the public to come in. So it's nearly 10:30, so if we take a 5-minute break to allow the members of the public to assemble and get in.
Right, thank you, Chair.
We'll resume at 10:35.
Thank you.
Right, it's 10:35. Dave, do we have the speakers present?
Sorry.
Councillor Evans.
Yes.
Councillor Evans. Yeah, hi, it's Dave. Back in the St Giles room for the moment. We've rung all the public speakers and they're just trying to join at the moment. So I will try to let them in the lobby in a moment. Councillor Bell, we've trying to get hold of as well for it because she's the board member speaking on this item. So if you just give us a moment just to confirm and then we can come back to you. Thank you. Okay. For those who are listening in, I'm sorry about this. It's very difficult when you have virtual meetings to know how long an application is going to take. So we do a rough estimation beforehand, and then we invite the public speakers to come in for that time. We obviously estimated the timing of the first one wrong, and it was much quicker than we thought it would have been. So hence the delay. And so sorry to the committee and anyone who's listening in that we can't yet get on with item 8, but we hope to do so as soon as we have the full list of the public speakers admitted into the system.
Whoever that was, bless you.
Good morning, Mr. March. As you're one of the last speakers, if you'd like to turn off your video and your mic until called upon. Nice to see you.
Yeah, and you. Okay. Yeah.
Chair, yes, it's Dave Shaw again. Just to confirm that we've got the public speakers, apart from the ward member, Councillor Bell, who's we've got an indication that she's going to join shortly.
Right, and we presumably have to wait for her to be here before we can start, is that correct?
That is correct. Chair, you're still sure again?
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Yes, I think, well, I believe that Councillor Bell has now joined the meeting, so we have all the public representatives within the meeting, so we can start the next item when members are ready. Since we've taken a break, could I just take the opportunity to do a very short roll call just to make sure that we're all back in the meeting? Councillor Clear?
Present.
Councillor Evans?
Yes, present.
Councillor Gordon-Smith?
Present.
Councillor Laming?
Present.
Councillor McLean?
Present.
Councillor Raffel?
Present.
Councillor Bentote?
Present.
And Councillor Pearson?
Present.
Thank you for confirming that's all members back in the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we are now at agenda item 8, application 20/00377 FUL, and the proposal description is section 73A application relating to decision number 17-00375-FUL, which was the demolition of the existing house and erection of a new house, and that was 01/06/2020, and this application is retrospective, and it is Ladwell House, Hursley Road in Hursley. The case officer is Sean Quigley. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Chair.
And when you're ready, over to you for your
Chair, we're having problems loading the PowerPoint again. If we could just wait for a second, we'll just see if we can get it available for you. Thank you.
Oh dear. Okay. So we're just on hold at the moment, if you're not watching, to get the PowerPoint presentation for the officer to present this application.
Chair, is Councillor Gordon-Smith having a problem with his microphone because it keeps flashing on and off?
It's not there, is it?
So we're just waiting for the presentation to come up on screen.
Oh, you need to share it, I think. It hasn't got the red border around. So if you press escape now, if you, yeah, yeah. You need to press escape, Dave, on the laptop. Oh yeah, that. I'm going to Teams now and try and share that.
Once again, apologies for the delay. The delay being we're waiting for the presentation, technical difficulties, which we hope will be resolved shortly. Could the committee have some idea as to what the problem is this morning? Because this is the second time that we've all been here waiting. Julie, you're muted. Are you speaking to us? No.
Thank you, Chairman. I apologise to members and those present with us at the moment. As you say, we are having an issue with trying to share the PowerPoint presentation via Teams this morning. We thought we'd resolved it, but we're having the same problem. Now, there's two options, Chair. One, we can talk you through the slides that are in the papers, and the case officer can refer to each page, or we can have a 10-minute adjournment so we can try and resolve this. I'll take your view.
Could we have some legal advice on that? Because Fiona did come in before and say we should have the presentation. Fiona?
Chair, I think as the public speakers, as I said, will wish to see the presentation, and also this is being uploaded onto the video channel for later, and obviously those people might like to see the presentation. I think ideally we ought to try and get this resolved for the rest of the meeting, and therefore it might be better to have a short adjournment now and try and get this resolved properly for the rest of the day. I'm sorry about that, but I think it does need to be resolved.
Yes, we can't keep waiting around like this as a committee. So committee members, what we'll do is it's 10 to or 10:48. We'll have a break till 11. Do you think that can be resolved by 11?
I'd anticipate so, Chair, and I'll keep you briefed during that intervening period.
Okay, committee, so we'll take a break again until 11 o'clock, and fingers crossed we will have it sorted out by then.
Thank you, Chair and members. I apologise.
Right, Dave, I'm going to get my phone.
Yeah, please. Can you mute us, Dave?
Councillors? Councillors?
Yes, Dave,
Yeah, good morning. Apologies for that. As Julie explained, we were having one or two technical issues in here for it in terms of displaying the presentations this morning. We've very helpfully had our IMT colleagues come up and help us out on that. So hopefully from now on for the next item, we can certainly run up to lunchtime with the rest of the presentations.
Well done.
Yes, thank you all for your patience.
We probably just need to do a roll call at 11, Dave, won't we, as well?
Councillor Evans?
Yes, I'm here, but we did.
Yes, I would just, I've just been speaking to Julie. As explained, we can now proceed with the meeting as set out. Because we've taken, unfortunately, another 15-minute break, I'm going to just run a very soft roll call again, just to make sure we're all in the meeting before we proceed at 11, as advised previously.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Clear?
Present.
Councillor Evans?
I'm here.
Councillor Gordon-Smith?
Present.
Councillor Laming?
Present.
Councillor McLean?
Present.
Councillor Raffel?
Present.
Councillor Bentout?
Present.
And Councillor Pearson?
Present.
Thank you, everyone. We're all present again for the meeting to proceed.
Yeah, but we did say 11 o'clock, and so I feel I have to wait till 11 o'clock in case somebody went away.
That's fine, Chair. Yes, it's only just 2 minutes to remain. Thank you.
Now, could I just check? Have we now solved these technical problems permanently?
Well, certainly up to lunchtime. This morning's meetings, we can be confident we can go ahead, and then we can review over lunchtime for this afternoon. But I don't think there'll be a problem from now on, Chair.
Very good.
Thank you.
So 1 more minute to go, and then members, and then we'll start again. Right, so I have already introduced this item, but we have the item on the screen now, Ladwell House, Thursby Road. So we will start. The case officer is Sean Quigley, and we have the presentation now on the screen. So over to you, Sean, for your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. This is an application at Ladwell House, Hursley Road, Hursley. As you've already mentioned, it's a Section 73A application, which your members will already know is an amendment to seeking amendments to an existing permission. In this case, a permission that was granted by the council in May 2017 for a replacement dwelling in the countryside. If I just take you through the slides. That's a picture of the west elevation, the front elevation. There's the site. The dwelling is marked 144 there. It's, as I've mentioned, a dwelling in the countryside, one of a small collection of dwellings in this location, a total of 5 dwellings here. There's an aerial shot showing the application site and the surrounding houses, which are all large houses in large grounds. There's the plan of the site. You'll see on the left-hand side Hursley Road, the property on the right-hand side set back some, as my report specifies, set back some 40 metres from the road. These are the elevations of, in this case, what has already been built. The northwest elevation up in the top left is the front elevation, which you saw on the first photographs, and the other elevations are shown on the remaining images on that slide. There's the floor plans, basement where the garages are, ground floor, first floor and roof plan. This is a particularly interesting slide in relation to this application because it shows the differences between the permitted scheme in 2017 and actually what's been constructed. So they're overlaid on each other, and it is very indicative of the extent of the changes that have taken place and how significant they are. There's the front elevation, south elevation, the east elevation, sorry, and the north elevation. Thank you, Chair. Can I go back, Dave?
Yes, yes, good.
The other.
Thank you very much, Sean. So we'll move on to the public speaking. Can we have the main screen back, perhaps? And that's the presentation screen. And we're going to be moving on to the public speaking. Right. So we have no objectors, but we have, first of all, the Parish Council representative, Councillor David Killeen. Good morning, Mr. Killeen.
Good morning. Oh, there we are.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
I'm sorry about the delay.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Gave me time to have another cup of coffee.
So
yes.
3 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you. Yes, good morning. I'm David Killeen, Chair of Hursley Parish Council. We have got together over a few times over the last couple of years to discuss this issue. Hursley Parish Council objects to the proposal for the following two reasons. One, that the current building has not been constructed in accordance with the agreed plans. The final agreed plan was not submitted to Hursley Parish Council with due process and with insufficient time for proper review. It is quite clear from the images of the site, both before and after development, that despite agreement in the plan that the building would be sympathetic to what was there before, i.e. 3 workers' cottages, that it is clearly now not. The owner and the Winchester planners have both failed to communicate between them what was agreed and what was being constructed. They are different. Both parties have also agreed that what now exists on this site is materially different from what had been agreed. Second, the owner is now attempting, even employing a QC, we understand, to circumvent the due process of making a sill payment. They are applying for retrospective planning permission, and this is clearly wrong. In summary, there have been significant failings both by the owner not following process and applying for material changes to be agreed upon at the time, and by the planning department for permitting by default this development to reach this stage and ending up having to be adjudicated by this committee. We ask you therefore to please consider this case carefully and find against the owner for omission of notifications and against the planning department for its negligence in handling this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor. It could be that the committee has questions for you. Could I just ask you, Councillor Killeen, what would you like in an ideal world to happen at this point? You're objecting to what you see now.
Yeah, clearly the building has been built. You know, we have no personal objection to the owners at all. We don't want to see significant problems caused by them. There are minor changes that might be appropriate, and they're listed in Appendix 1 that you've had, and Eleanor might well speak of that. And I think the sill payment avoidance is quite clearly wrong, as I said.
Okay, thank you. Vice
Thanks.
Chair, any other questions for Councillor Killeen?
No, Chair, no questions at present, thank you.
Thank you very much, Killeen, for coming on today. We do appreciate it. And if you could just mute your microphone, turn your video off, but of course, please stay with us for the rest of the application or all day. So our next speaker is the Ward Councillor, Councillor Eleanor Bell. Good morning, Councillor.
Good morning.
And you have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you. As my Parish Council Chair has explained, the reason that we have objected to this application, section 73A, which I have to admit we were not familiar with, but we understand that what it's seeking is retrospective agreement of compliance with conditions of the 2017 build. We don't agree that they are compliant, and therefore we object to this retrospective application. As the Chair of the Parish Council mentioned, this was not notified in due process, in due course, to our Parish Council. Our clerk at the time picked it up simply when he was looking for agreements and decisions made and so on. And so at the very last minute, we had a quick look at it and thought, well, the building has already been destabilised. What can we do? It's already destabilised. It will have to therefore be demolished and rebuilt. But because all of the applications, all of the planning applications stressed that they would be in sympathy with the original dwelling and in sympathy with the style of that, it went ahead. However, what has been built, we don't agree, is in sympathy with what was there before. But even if you leave that aside, we don't agree that what has been built is compliant with what was agreed in 2017. And I think it's very important that this is something that has shifted over time. I think many of us will be familiar with cases where a building is to be extended or changed or so on, and then we find out it has to be demolished and rebuilt. If the rebuild is sympathetic, we understand that. It is not. It is not. I don't know whether this is going to work. I'm going to show. Is that working?
Yes.
That is the building that has been demolished. It's not in Sean Quigley's in the officer's presentation. That's the building that was demolished. That's the building which we understand retrospectively was deemed to be of no architectural merit and of no historic interest. It's actually 3 estate cottages that were made into one. That often happens. And sorry, if I just lift this up again, it has Hursley chimneys in the centre, and then 2 more chimneys on either side. I don't know how we can say this is of no architectural merit, but the officer's report, which has been added, if you go and look on the files, was not there in 2017. We did ask. We said, where is the officer's report? It's been added now in September 2020. And in that report, there is a statement that this building is of no architectural merit. It's very much Hursley style, and it is not relevant to say that it doesn't match the houses next to it. These buildings are scattered about the whole parish. They were dwellings for farm workers, and they are scattered all over the whole parish. We will find them everywhere, and this was one of the remaining dwellings. So our case is not so much, we know what's happened, it's been demolished, it's gone, that's a shame. We therefore have a new building, and the new building is not as permitted in 2017. There are a number of diversions, if you like, or differences from that permission, and therefore we simply do not agree that we should simply say in retrospect this is compliant. Therefore, the owners and applicants do not have to pay a sill payment. I find that quite a shocking. What can I say? It's a shift of behaviour that is saying, get this agreed in retrospect, then you're compliant, then you don't have to pay sill, and so on. We simply don't accept it, and that's our case. We object to the Section 73A application.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Members of the committee, does anyone want to ask the ward councillor any questions?
I have no one indicating for a question, Chair.
We'll just wait a second or so to see if anyone wishes to ask a question. But no, it doesn't look like it. So thank you very much, Councillor Bell. And if you could turn your microphone and camera off. Thank you very much. And the last speakers, there are two of them, as supporters, we have Neil March, who is the agent. Good morning, Mr. March. And
morning.
Alistair Sinker, who is the applicant. Good morning, Mr. Sinker. You have seen you, so I know.
Yes, good morning. Good morning.
So how you share the 3 minutes is up to you. The clock will come on the screen in a minute, and it's over to you when you're ready. You have 3 minutes.
Can I just before I do start, I'm going to be doing the speaking. I've invited Mr. Sinker to join the meeting so that he's there if any members want to ask him any direct questions.
Yes, that's fine.
I'll be doing the 3 minute speak.
Okay, so it could be afterwards if there are questions that Mr. Sinker would prefer to answer, and that is fine.
Sure. Okay.
So over to you, Mr. March.
Okay. My clients had planned to extend the original house. However, after having obtained permission, they subsequently found out that the building had no foundations, was of poor construction, and had major damp issues throughout, including rotten roof timbers. The property was therefore found to be in such a poor state that the property was therefore found to be in a much poorer state than originally anticipated, presenting a number of construction difficulties, and from a financial point of view, made the project unviable. Many of the original features had already been lost. The roof tiles were cheap cement tiles, not clay. The chimneys were not overly ornate or out of the ordinary, and there were 3 different types of windows, including UPVC. It was the planning officer who advised that the building had no historical value and would be supportive of a second application to demolish and replace the building. Having obtained permission in 2017 to replace the dwelling, my client set out in good faith to undertake the development as approved and took the decision to project manage the build themselves. They were in communication with the planning department during the build, seeking approval for materials and other details, and were also open about changes to the design, including changes to the garage doors. The dwelling is the same height, width and depth and has the same footprint and roof design as permitted under the previous permission. The materials were all signed off by the planning department. The internal layout and habitable floor space is the same as approved. No additional floor space has been created. The main differences boil down to the windows and the shape of the garage doors, as well as some of the design detailing. The windows were recycled from a property in Surrey that was being demolished. They are high quality, top end conservation timber frame windows manufactured by renowned supplier Mumford & Wood. Whilst the property as built has resulted in a slightly more contemporary appearance, it is not inappropriate given its location and within the context of the surrounding properties. Ladwell is a small hamlet of 7 dwellings situated along a busy road between Chandler's Ford and Hursley. The majority of the properties are unrelated to each other or to the style of dwellings typically found in Hursley. White render is used in 3 out of the 7 properties, and 2 of the properties are completely white. Apart from the use of render, there is no other overriding characteristic or theme in this hamlet. The dwelling is set back from the road, and most people passing by are in vehicles and are travelling at speed, so only get a very brief glimpse of the property. The previous roadside hedge was removed by my clients as it had become overgrown. It was always their intention to plant a replacement hedge along the frontage, and they have made arrangements for this to be done in November. In time, the hedge will grow to a height of 2.5 to 3 metres, and like the previous hedge, will screen much of the dwelling from the road. They've also planted climbers in front of the property, which in time will cover parts of the render. The application has not generated any interest or comments from any other of the immediate neighbours or any other individual members of the local community. It is only Hursley Parish Council and the local ward member who have expressed particular interest in the application. We fully support the officer's report and recommendation and urge the committee to grant planning permission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marsh, and Mr. Think is very welcome to put his microphone and camera on if he wishes to answer any questions. I would like clarification on one point. So in 2017, this property had permission to demolish what was there and then to put up a new house, which we see now, with the addition of a garage to the front. But there seems to be more than one garage at the front. Is that correct, or was that part of that application in 2017?
Yes, the permission, well, the application in 2017 had the 4 garages. I mean, inside it's just a space. Because we have to bring the property forward, we had to support the house. So that's why there are 4 garages.
There are 4, yeah.
Yeah.
And is that part of that approval in 2017, or is that a change which is now before us?
No, that was part of the approval in 2017.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Vice Chair, any further questions?
Councillor McLean, please, Chair.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Neil. Question, if I may. I don't know whether you would want to answer it or Alistair, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
You bought the property. I think you said, Neil, that the property was bought with a view to extending it. And I guess modernising it. That's the first part of the question. Is that the correct state? Is that correct?
I'll answer that one. Yes, it was. There was a planning application submitted to extend the property quite significantly, but as I explained in my deputation, that they then discovered there was lots of difficulty, problems with the property, so that therefore led them to then apply to replace the dwelling.
Can I ask a further question then to that? Did you not do a survey first to find out whether the property was going to be capable of extending?
Yes, we did, and the survey didn't quite reveal what we then subsequently discovered. Of course, you know, when you do a planning application, you don't produce drawings that are down to the last nut and bolt until obviously you get permission. And so when we worked with a small company who kind of designed this for us, but it became very obvious once we got planning permission, we got structural engineers in there, which is obviously people that you don't have before you do this, and it became very apparent very quickly that what we wanted to do, the existing building couldn't support.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a reminder that
Thank you, Chair.
was already a decision that's been taken, Councillor McLean, so that's not what's before us today, it's the changes which we see on page 41 under design. Any further questions?
Sorry, Chair, I do understand that, but I was just looking for some background information, which I think I'm entitled to do. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
No more questions. Thank you, Chair.
Questions. So, thank you very much, Mr. March and Mr. Sinker. Thank you very much for coming along today. If you could turn your videos and cameras off and whatever, thank you very much. And do stay with us as long as you wish. Sean, would you like to make any comments on what you've heard from the public speaking?
What I would say, Chair, is to reiterate the point that you just made, and it also relates back to the comments from Councillor Bell, in that the decision before you today is not comparing the original building with what is proposed today. It's comparing the what has been built with the previous permission in 2017. And in my view, as you've seen from my assessment, the bulk of the building, its depth, height, width and size, its scale, that decision was taken in 2017. The current application is for changes to that scheme, and I think the most illustrative thing that we've had is the overlay, which shows the differences between the two schemes. And I've concluded in my assessment that whilst there are differences, Councillor Bell is quite right, there are differences between what was approved and what we have before us, but those changes do not justify a refusal of planning permission. They are not so significant as to merit that. They have no overly significant bigger impact on the character of the area than what we permitted in 2017. I think that's the main point, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sean. I don't know whether you or Julie want to comment on the parish council's complaint that they weren't notified of this application. Do we not notify this type of application when it's changes?
As far as I'm aware, Chair, that the parish council were aware, but in a way, notwithstanding that, when I considered this application, I had the parish council's comments before me, so the decision reflects the comments that they made. I think that's the important point here.
Yes, I think what Councillor Bell said was that the clerk by chance happened to pick it up when looking through the weekly list. But anyway, Julie, anything to add to that?
Chairman, while we were talking, I've just checked our back office system, which is where we generate our neighbour notification and parish council responses from, and it does indicate that a parish council consultation was generated, Chair. So I can't explain why they received that, and I can only apologise for that. But as the case officer says, fortunately for us all, we were able to hear the parish council's comments and Councillor Bell, and we're here to considering the application with their comments in full. So I think that's really helpful.
Yes, so a mystery, but we, as you say, we did hear the comments on the parish council.
Chair, excuse me, I now have a question from Councillor Laming and Councillor Pearson.
Okay, Councillor Laming.
Thank you. Did at any point the applicant come to the council to discuss the changes that he'd made prior to going ahead with them?
Unfortunately, that was I'm the case officer, Chair, and that was before my time, so I'm unable to comment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, is there any record of anybody coming to discuss these changes at the council? That's really what the crux of the question is.
Chairman, we don't have that information now for this meeting, I'm afraid. All we can ask the committee to do is consider whether this application is acceptable or not. I think we can't revisit that right at this stage. I'm happy to do that outside of this meeting.
Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see what the case officer is coming to about minimal environmental impacts, the changes. But there's a query that was raised by Councillor Bell about CIL. Could you explain exactly what that is about? I presume the original application was made at a time when CIL didn't exist, but now there is with this retrospective application. So could we have some explanation about this CIL in relation to this retrospective application, please?
Chairman, I'm happy to start that off if that's helpful. I know the case officer has some detail on that, and we may well ask our public law manager to assist as well. What I'd say is, while CIL is something that is recovered by your officers through the planning process, the decision today wouldn't be material to us as to whether this development is still liable or not. That would be other legislation that would deal with that. I think the parish council feel that still probably the applicant claimed an exemption on the original scheme in 2017, and the question is, are they exempt today on this scheme? And it's not really a question for us as a planning committee, it's a question that we will need to explore through the legislation. And I know Fiona Sutherland has taken a view on that, and I don't know if Ms Sutherland would like to contribute.
Fiona?
Hello, Chair. Yes, thank you. The case officer did actually consult me on this, I think, several months ago now. SIL is highly technical and there's very little discretion sometimes in the processes and payments. But I was involved because the applicant actually submitted some legal advice obtained, I think, by Mr March. And I reviewed that legal advice, which was basically into whether or not the SIL exemption could still apply to this new permission if granted. And having reviewed the advice, I was satisfied that the applicant was able to follow the correct processes to make sure that no SIL payment would be due on this application. And I can confirm that no SIL payment was due on the last application either. So there's no additional payment due, and the applicant isn't avoiding any payment of anything. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Fiona.
Thank you very much. We seem to have drifted into questions on the report, which is fine. And I was going to take principal development and design, but we've gone into other areas. So let's carry on with questions on the report on any of the issues. Could I, while people are putting their indications on chat, could I just ask Sean, on our update sheet, we've got a whole set of conditions. And when I looked at it, it seemed to be a repeat of what we've already got in the report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That was an error on my part. Unfortunately, it was pointed out that because the application is to changes that have already been made, the conditions I originally attached didn't reflect that. So they unfortunately had, you know, this shall be done when development is commenced, which on reflection wasn't accurate. So those new conditions reflect the fact that the development has already happened.
Okay, so yes, I see in condition 6 you've crossed out bits that are not relevant now.
Correct, that's it.
Is that the only change?
They should all be there. There's a couple, and they're all indicated, Chair.
Okay, well we've all read the new conditions, so those are the conditions that we take when we come to vote.
That's it.
Vice Chairman, any questions on any of the sections of the report?
No, Chair, I have no questions.
So then we are at the point of moving into debate. Let's give members of the committee a moment to indicate their...
Councillor Laming and Councillor Pearson, Chair, please.
Thank you. Councillor Laming. Councillor Laming, debate.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it off of. Right, sorry, I had trouble getting on the mic to work. I find that this is quite a disturbing application, because yet again we've come against an applicant on retrospective planning consent. I think that people should actually work with the planning department more. I find that the changes that have been made, although on the surface look slight, are material, and I think it takes the building out of character with the local surroundings, and therefore based on that I shall be voting against this particular application.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I also find this disturbing. We've had a couple of these situations in my own village where what has been produced has not been quite what was on the application, and the answer given was that the changes had no environmental impact. In this particular case, yes, I can agree with that, although the changes are much more substantial. Chimneys of different design, fenestration smaller, different design, doorways to the single garage space, all different design, which is unfortunately in that it is setting or these situations are setting precedences time and time again that if we seem to be giving the signals that if an applicant does this, then there's virtually, we will not either not do anything about it or we can't do anything about it. And this comes back down to, if we are going to do something about it, for example, turn down this application, then the question is, as you quite rightly asked very early on, Chairman, what happens next? Now, are we saying by turning this down that we agree in the future that any applicant that does this sort of thing is, yes, fine, we will eventually give you permission? Or are we saying, no, I'm sorry, we're not having that. You've got to demolish that building at, quite frankly, punitive costs, and then put your application in and start again. And frankly, I don't know how we can do that without being rather vindictive. So really, this whole situation leaves us all in a very cleft stick. It'd be interesting to see what the result would be within the result if the new white paper about planning goes through. But that is a side issue. So we're left with this double quandary. What should happen next? I don't know the answer, and I've not heard. I don't think we had a straight answer to your original question, Chairman. But it leads now down to, while we have no planning grounds for turning this down because it has no environmental impact, we are giving the wrong messages. And perhaps I know that there may be a legal issue behind this. The other comment I would say, we've said this time and time again when I've been on planning committee, we really have got to have notes about any pre-application minutes, meetings that take place, because we now got a situation where Sean cannot say what was said in these minutes. The applicant quite rightly says we discussed every change with the planning department, but we at this end have no notes to establish that. And that really is a position where we cannot sustain. And I think because of that, I would find it very, very difficult to otherwise accept what the applicant has said and grant the planning permission, unless I hear something legally that says we should not accept it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson, and I hear what you say about having a record that we can refer back to, which is 3 years. And I think the problem here is that back in 2017, the Hursley estate had 3 rather nice agricultural cottages which were demolished. They weren't listed, so there was absolutely no reason why the house then, which was the 3 cottages, could be demolished. So permission was given for it to be demolished, and permission was given for a very similar sized house. Sean, I'm probably asking the impossible given the difficulties we've had, but is there any chance of seeing on screen the slide that you had with the changes, you know, what was given approval and then the changes that have been made?
I think we can do that, Chair, yes.
Because what we've heard from, well, we're waiting to see if that can happen. What we've heard from the case officer is that the changes which are listed on page 41 of our reports under design are acceptable in planning terms. So if we refuse this, then I'm sure an appeal inspector would take the same view, because they are, well, it depends what your view of significant is. There are a lot of them, so that perhaps is significant, but the changes that they make, what we need to consider as a committee is, are they significant to have altered what was given permission for? We've heard about sill, so that's not an irrelevant matter here. Sean, any chance of seeing that slide or not?
We're just trying to get that up now, Chair. If you can give us a few seconds.
Given the problems we've had with putting presentations on, perhaps that's not, it's a difficult ask. But I'm sure members can remember the slide anyway. I'm sure members can remember, so we'll leave it there. So I too regret the loss of the Hursley estate buildings with the Hursley chimneys, but that's a done deal. That was decided in 2017. I do regret when we are faced with retrospective decisions. There's nothing incorrect in that, but it is at the owner's risk. But it does put us, as Councillor Pearson has pointed out, in a very difficult position. But we have to take into account what would the harm be in what we see in front of us now. Would we, if this was a new application, have given permission? And given the recommendation we've had from our planning officer, and I did investigate it again yesterday, the answer is it would have still got permission because there are changes. And we've heard why some of the changes were made, but they're not significant in planning terms. So I find myself in a difficult position because I don't particularly like what I've got in front of me. I'd rather have seen something that was there originally, but that isn't the issue. The issue is these changes that we've got listed on page 41. Are they acceptable? Are they compliant? And I think they are. So I should be supporting the application. Vice Chair, any further contributions to debate?
No, Chair, no more contributions, thank you.
Okay. So this application has been recommended for approval. On the update sheet, we have the updated conditions because, as the case officer pointed out, some of them have been superseded by events. So that's on the update sheet, page 4, 5 and 6. So given that the approval with all those conditions, new conditions, updated conditions, Dave will take us through the roll call to see what the committee, how the committee will vote. Dave, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you again, Chair. Councillor Clear.
4.
Councillor Evans.
4.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
Yes, I'm happy to accept the plan recommendation.
Councillor Laming.
Against.
Councillor McLean.
Against.
Councillor Raffel.
4.
Councillor Bentote.
4.
And Councillor Pearson.
4.
Thank you. So that's 6 members for and 2 against.
So that application has been approved. Thank you very much. Now, we have one more item on the agenda this morning, which is agenda item 9. I know this is a long time before the 2 o'clock schedule, but we had an application that was withdrawn at the last minute. But how are we, Dave, with the time for... Oh, that is the presentation. Brilliant. And we have one speaker who is Miss Horrell. And so is Miss Horrell here?
She's present in the meeting, Chair.
Okay. So
perhaps Councillor Horrell could just confirm that though for me, please.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'm here, but in a personal capacity as the owner of the building in question.
Yeah. So
right.
you're not Miss
Thank
Horrell.
you, Chair. So
I'm here as Caroline Horrell, not Councillor Horrell.
Yeah.
Chair, thank you.
Okay, great. And you've no doubt spoken in the application's only here because you are a councillor, and no doubt you've spoken with Fiona as to what you do after you speak, have you?
I haven't spoken personally to Fiona, Chair. My understanding was that because I'm here as the owner of the property, I would be able to stay in the meeting. I am not here as a councillor.
No.
Chair, may I?
Yeah.
I actually emailed Caroline Horrell yesterday. I don't know whether the email was picked up, but possibly not. But my advice was that Caroline Horrell would speak in her personal capacity as a supporter in that slot, and that as she has an interest in the property and as she is a councillor, she will have to leave the meeting as soon as she has spoken and answered any questions from members on the item. Thank you, Chair.
So that means that she has to indicate she's leaving the meeting at that point, and then has to turn her video and everything off. Right. Okay. Thank you. So we move on to agenda item 9, which is 20/00293/HOU. It's the replacement of a garden shed at Wheatlands, Woodward Lane, Sparshcote, and the case officer is again Sean Quigley. And I see we've got the presentation. Great. So when you're ready, Sean, we're ready to listen to your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, this is a application for a replacement garden shed in a property in the southern part of Sparsholt village, within the settlement boundary and within the conservation area. The property is called Wheatlands, and as you can see on that first slide, shows the Wheatlands location on the edge of the countryside, a long triangular plot. There's the. Can you see that, Chair? Can they hear me, Chair? We're just having a little problem with the presentation again. Apologies, Chair.
Are we on mute? No. Chairman, I'm sorry, we are just having another, we've got the presentation, as you saw on your screen, we could see it, but it wouldn't move through the slides. We'll just give one more go, and then if not, I think we should be able to share it. It's just coming, it's there at the bottom left. Oh, that's the additional, isn't it? Below that. No. Can you mute us, Dave?
Thank you, Chair. There's the site, long triangular site at the bottom of Sparsholt village. Aerial view showing the property at towards the top of the screen, and the red arrow showing the existing shed, which the proposed new shed will replace in the same location. That shows the exact location of the proposed shed in the site. There's an elevation of the shed. It's approximately 2.5 metres wide, 4 metres long and 2.5 metres high. So a normal size proportionate shed. There's another elevation, the end elevation and another end. That's the entrance to the property. The shed will be behind that tree. The house itself is behind the camera. That's looking from the other direction, so the proposed shed will be immediately the other side of this hedge as we look at it. That's not a very good shot. This one is of the precise location of the shed, looking out into the open countryside. So we'll replace the existing shed with a building which is slightly larger and of appropriate materials, Chair.
Is that it, Sean?
That's it. Thank you, Chair. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And we have we have one speaker, Caroline, who is the applicant, Caroline Horrell. Caroline, as you're here as a member of the public, you have 3 minutes, and the clock will come up. And when you're ready, please start.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take the opportunity this morning to say thank you to you all for allowing me to address the committee today. And I just wanted to assure everyone that because I live in a conservation area, I was very aware of the need to apply for planning permission for the shed, which I hope will demonstrate to others in my village and other places that that is the appropriate route to take. I'm also pleased that my permission has come to committee today, and I hope that as Mr. Quigley said, all the documentation is in order and that you will approve the replacement shed, which is sadly falling down after many years hard use. However, I would say that I did have a planning permission for a tree previously that did not come to committee, and I raised that with the planning team and asked for it to come back to committee so that we as councillors can be seen to be doing absolutely the right thing as residents of our communities. But I hope I've given all of the information appropriately to Mr. Quigley, particularly in terms of the materials that are appropriate for such a building. It is tucked away on our site behind the hedge, as indicated, and I hope that you will all find favour with the process. But I am very keen to note that even though I wear two hats as the owner of the property, but also as a member of the council, that we should comply with all the appropriate planning steps, which I hope and believe I have done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Caroline. Any questions for Caroline?
No, Chair, not at the moment.
We'll just wait a few seconds to allow people to put their indications on chat.
No, nothing,
No,
Chair.
it doesn't look like it is. So as the legal advice has indicated, Caroline, could we ask you to lead the meeting, as it were, virtually?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, Sean, anything you wish to add to your presentation? Sean, anything you wish to add? Probably not.
No, thank you, Chair. Sorry.
No, and I'm just going through the normal procedure. And questions on any part of the report, members? Any questions?
Don't think so, Chair.
No.
No.
Debate. I would just like to say I see no problem with this. Obviously, it should be at committee because we have to be seen to do things appropriately as councillors. But this shed is can't be seen from the public realm. It can be seen from the field, but it can't be seen from the road. And the case officer is perfectly happy with the materials, so I see no problem in approving this application. Any further contributions, Vice Chair?
No, Chair. Thank you.
So this is recommended for approval, this application. There are no extra conditions on the update sheet. So we will ask Dave to take us through the roll call for the vote.
Yes, thank you again, Chair. Councillor Clear.
Oh, 4.
Councillor Evans.
4.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
4.
Councillor Laming.
4.
Councillor McLean.
4.
Councillor Raffel.
4.
Councillor Bentote.
4.
And Councillor Pearson.
4.
That's all members in favour, Chair.
And so that's unanimous. This application has been approved. Right, we get to the stage now where the next business item is actually not scheduled till 2 o'clock, and we have public speakers. That's agenda item 11 in Denmead, Lexington Ridge. So we can't start before 2 o'clock. That's correct, isn't it, Dave?
Yes, it is. It is, Chair. Yes.
So I wonder if we could stop the recording, but